is good. We are pumped up. We are ready to go, aren't we, Agape? Corey, God is Corey in the band. Thank you very much. So take a deep breath, because we've been dancing. Relax. You know, and how beautiful, I remind my nieces and nephews, when things aren't flowing, get up and dance, you know? So it's beautiful that we begin with that energy. So Reverend Lee asked me to speak, and I always just take it to Spirit, okay? So what's the theme, Spirit? What do you want me to share? You know, I'm known as the love bug in my family and my circle of friends, and all of a sudden I kept seeing hearts everywhere. And I do see hearts, but like everywhere. There's one in the parking lot at Good to Go Taco. There's one at the Promise of Peace Garden. There's one on my green carpet. I'm like, okay, so what's the theme then? Okay, it's heart. It's all about heart. And then I heard clearly, love with all your heart. So it became clear to me that in New Thought, we are excellent about cultivating the law, understanding how to use universal principles. We are excellent about, transforming our lives with affirmations, learning spiritual mind treatment. But I sometimes feel that we forget the mystical aspect of life. See, I grew up Roman Catholic, and I've had this love affair with the divine my entire life. You know, there's transcendent mystery that you can't put your hands around or your mind around. And when I was 5 years old, I was sitting in the backyard. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I can see this picture clearly. Now, I'm not a singer. I can dance, but I'm not a singer. But I was singing with all of my heart while I'm rocking my little rocking horse with these big glasses that look like a Hollywood star, okay? And I'm just singing and singing because I'm all of a sudden just enveloped in this love. It was a love that was so indescribable, and in that moment, at 5 years old, I merged into that greater reality, and what awakened in me, and it's part of the lineage of women in my family, was that force of unconditional love. That force that has no real words for it. It's not the love that's emotional, but it's that mystical aspect of understanding this greater reality. A lot of times we experience that out in great nature. A lot of times, like I experienced it the first time I held my niece when she was born, and I gazed into her eyes. It was a love that was indescribable. And it's easy when we're out in this expansive awareness of nature to have that. But as a child, I couldn't understand why religion's always talked about us as broken, as sinners, having had that experience of love and whatever this transcendent mystery was. And so I went through my whole life just cultivating this absolute dance with the divine. And sometimes I feel like we forget about that, because we're so aware of God as us, and we see God everywhere, but there's this transcendent mystery that is breathing us, pulsating as us. This transcendent mystery that is that love intelligence, that first principle, that self-givingness of life. So my friend Anita, I met her, about 10 years ago. And when Anita was in her 20s, she was out with her sister and her sister's boyfriend. It was a beautiful day. A day prior to the experience I'm about to share, she had this existential crisis moment. She's like, what's my purpose, God? Like, I don't get it. Like, why am I here, okay? And her life was running smoothly, up until that point, okay? So they go out to this pond. They're getting ready to go swimming. A plane comes by, and they do that little, the plane, so she's goofing off, the plane, and suddenly she dives into the pond, and it's a pretty deep pond, but she hits something, which later she finds out it's a turtle. But she broke her neck. In that moment, what felt like an hour or longer, because she goes, there was no time, Veronica. She goes, I was underwater for 4 minutes. My sister and her boyfriend panicked. They came in to get me. She goes, but I was underwater for 4 minutes. She goes, but I don't remember any of that. She goes, I was taken to this tunnel of light. She goes, and all I felt was this overwhelming love. She goes, I don't even know how to describe it. She goes, it was this most magnificent love, and I just wanted to stay in this present. She goes, it's everything that you've ever heard of. She goes, but you don't hear it in words. She goes, you feel it. It's a vibration, it's a frequency. And then she understood, it's like, it's not your time. And she came back and ended up, and still is, a quadriplegic. But if you met Anita, first of all, you would not see the physical condition. You would feel her love before you even walked into her room. That woman radiates love in a way that I've never experienced. That when the nurses were like, well, you're traumatized, you need to process this. She's like, no. She goes, I know all is well, because God is love. My life is love. So how often do we hear about experiences like that, and then I wonder, because in certain traditions, they're always looking for the afterlife, love in the afterlife. And as a child and as a teenager, as a young adult, as an adult, I'm like, what are we waiting for? I mean, if it's so good on the other side, then why did we come here in the first place, I never understood that. And so then I realized, as I went through all the mystical traditions, I cultivated my own interior awareness. When I began to practice the presence, I'm like, oh, we're it. We're it. And then I found new thought. Oh, God as love is my life. God as love is your life. That's it. That's what they mean when they said growing up, love thy Lord with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Love, the first principle. So then I realized, okay, so if love is all there is, I'm going to walk out there with my heart wide open. And then what happens when we walk out in the world with our heart wide open? Bam! We run into experiences that want to contradict our essential nature, which is love. So with the mystical and the practical, the first thing about the mystical is we stand in that experience that many of us have had. That experience of oneness, that experience of infinite love, that experience of knowing our perfection. We have that self-awareness of the wholeness, the oneness, that divine love that is God expressing as us. It is the first principle of life. God is all there is. And then we come into the reality that is Spirit as us. In this human expression, with all what I say are prickly particularities. And so it's like, so Veronica, how do I go be love with all my heart? When I turn on the news, when I see what's happening in the world, when I walk my neighborhood and the kids suffering, when I see poverty, when I see, the elderly neglected, when I see people working hard, it's like, how can I be love? And the question for me is, how can I not? How can I not be that radiating presence? And I get it. I get that I can understand that there's an infinite divine nature. I go to the Hare Krishna temple because I love their devotion, because I love that energy of devotion. It's just this energy that wells up about the love of God. So I'll go and I'll fill my cup, and then I go out into the world. It's like, how can I bring this forth? How can I radiate this everywhere I go? How can I, within my prayer work, cultivate that consciousness that no matter what I'm encountering God? But see, we move in this world with all the circumstances that we have. And so it's the opportunity that when we have this self-awareness of the oneness that is God, the self-awareness that my life is that, the self-awareness that God is all there is, and then we move and have these experiences that don't feel like that, then we move into self-acceptance. Because shame can't get you to love, but you got to shine the light of love on shame. Doubt is not going to take you there, but you shine the light of love on doubt. Limitation is just an illusion of separation. You shine the light of love on that. I watched Raya Elias, who is the best friend of Elizabeth Gilbert, and Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and the Signature of All Things. And her best friend, Syrian-born, I think she grew up in Detroit. She was a drug addict, hairdresser, raunchy, raw woman, just saying it like it is. And she experienced the depths of hell through her journey and woke up 17 years ago. So they're sitting there at the Sydney Opera, and she's talking about her experience. And she's talking about having this conversation with her head. Because, see, the head can't lead the way. We're going to get into the heart intelligence in a minute, but the head, really, we have the logic that's necessary. We have that ability to discern, but it's not going to take you to the kingdom of heaven. And when she was talking to the crowd, she goes, you know what? I realize my stories are not who I am. It's my journey, but it's not who I am. She goes, you know what, who I am? She goes, it's love. And she kept pointing to her heart. I am love. I'm a point of light. I'm a point of truth. She goes, and we get to be that for each other. Now, do we have to go through the depths of hell to experience the expansiveness of heaven? No. But sometimes in our journey, we have that. We encounter that. We encounter our ego. We encounter the darkness. We encounter whatever that whole game is sometimes that I feel like that we come on this earth only to strip it all down and uncover that I'm love. See, I'm not this body, but I'm experiencing this body. I'm not my sensations, but I'm experiencing the sensations. I'm not my feelings, but I'm experiencing these feelings. And when we can move into that space of, but love is all there is. Love is my life. Love is my light, because guess what? It is God as me. That is what essentially makes us, in this movement, gives us the ability to stand in the truth of who we are. When we dance with the divine, like we danced earlier, we're not dancing to something external, but there is something greater beyond us, but it is us. When we have the self-awareness of the infinite presence, and then we have the self-acceptance that everything along the way was perfect, even though it may not have felt like it, and even though it could have been painful, but it was perfect because it brought you to this moment, this holy now of the awareness of who you are. And I'm not saying it's always pretty. And I'm not saying it's always easy. But when we awaken and we have people that we're surrounded with, and we're in a community that's awakened to the divine presence, we are then lifted into our greater beingness. So when we love with all of our heart, we recognize when we're standing there with someone who's raging at us like, oh, they're in their pain. Let me be the love. When someone's suffering over here, oh, they're in the condition. Let me be that love. When we see the chaos in the world, when two or more are gathered, and we are gathered in a higher consciousness, which is what you do here every Sunday at Agape, every day you do your spiritual practice, every day you take a class, you are elevating the frequency of not only this community, but this planet. When you look out at the world going, this is the manifest body of God, and whatever this experience is, I am the I am that Luann so beautifully did in her meditation. The I am presence. And when we gather together in that energy, in that awareness, we raise and lift the consciousness of this world. So how do we make it practical? So I'm trained in the connection practice, which is a social and emotional skill set, okay? So we've got this understanding of the oneness of God. We've got this understanding that is God as us, and then we have this human experience, which is part of our journey, because I never want to deny that. But in the physical realm, our actual heart has an intelligence and a brain that is far greater than our actual brain. Our actual heart, and Heart Math has done scientific studies, so this is a scientifically based and proven expression and experience that we literally radiate love everywhere we go. And when we're reacting from our amygdala, that part that we're getting all pissed off and reacting to something from the past, and it's really unreasonable, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, God, I wish I'd gone and meditated before I said that, you know? That's your amygdala. That's your part of your brain that is acting from something in the past. It's bringing it forward, and it's going wild. Well, what the heart does, when you become centered in your heart awareness, it's called heart coherence. What the heart does, this is going like, wild monkeys out in the forest, and then the heart, you start focusing on the heart, and what it does, it slows it down. And you think of it as a clock. The clock with the big hand, it slows it down and it brings it into coherence. The intelligence of our heart is far greater than we've ever known or imagined. In Heart Math, they teach you that it is when you are in heart coherence, you are more resilient. And not that you bounce back, but you have greater energy. You have greater wisdom flowing through. When you are in heart coherence, you have greater intuition. Because intuition really is that internal GPS that leads us to be that love in the world. And when you are in heart coherence, you have greater emotional mastery. So that, when we're being triggered, yes, we have our mantras, yes, we have our affirmations, but if your amygdala is on fire, none of that's going to be working in the moment, So what happens is when you learn to go into heart coherence, which is the practical part of utilizing our heart, you are able to breathe into the space. Now, if you were not here for the meditation, Lou Ann led this perfectly without me even telling her I was going to talk about this. Because with heart coherence, and we're going to practice this in a minute, you focus on your heart. And then you breathe into your heart. And then you bring forth an awareness of something that you appreciate. Because when you're in a field of appreciation, it is like this radiant energy. It's a higher frequency. When you stay in that field of appreciation, you go into coherence. So think of it as you're in that groove. And in those moments that you want to gain greater wisdom, you can actually ask your heart, what is it that I need to know? In heart math, they say the heart is a communication station of spirit, which I love. When you're in heart coherence, you can hear that wisdom of the one that is your life. Because are you hearing it when your head's running a mile a minute? I don't. I hear the voices of my past. I hear the voices of the critics. I hear that inner voice that's like trying to tear me down. But when I'm in my heart, I'm able to slow down. I'm able to be still. I'm able to anchor into this awareness. I'm able to then discern not from my ego, but to listen to that infinite wisdom that is God, speaking as me. And it is clear. It is pristine. It is love. Because the heart of the wisdom is never critical. So when we move in this world and we operate from this heart coherence, we create a field. So the thing I love about heart math too, because this is what supports my prayer work. When I get into heart coherence, and this is what I do when I do my invocation, when I do a coaching session, I'm actually aligning my consciousness in the oneness that is life, but I'm also in coherence. I realize that I radiate a field of love that creates a container so that whoever's sitting in front of me knows that I am only standing in the presence of God. Now, they will come in with their story, their experience, whatever they're, moving through, and I am there to honor them through their journey. But I am there to bring the love into the room. I am there to have the heart open because it can be scary. But I can't live by that story that I'm going to be scared if my heart is open. I'd rather jump off the cliff 1,000 times, get up, die, and come back than live with my heart closed because we're denying the fullness and the wholeness of who we are. So expansive awareness. So you're in that field of infinite love. You become aware that no matter what the experience is, you accept yourself as the presence of God. And then you move into the practicality of it with the spiritual tools that you use from the heart intelligence. So when there's fear and anger and hate and separation, do you have the courage to stand in love? You may be the only voice in the room, but you've got to know that the infinite one is far greater than any chaos, far greater than any, separation, that the voice of the one that is your life is calling you to be the love in every moment. And when you're in a place and space that you're needing to be lifted, then you get your friends who support you. You get your practitioners to support you. You move from that place of the heart. We are being called at this time on this planet in the most evolutionary time ever in recorded history. Because if it happened before, we don't have any record about it, okay? But everything is pointing to the heart. Ken Wilber, who's the integral philosopher of our time, has the return of the heart to the Christ consciousness. Because the great master teacher really was the key about love. He brought it forth. Love with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. Love, body, mind, soul. Heart math, the key to activating heart intelligence. So what we get to do is we make it practical, and then we bring it forth into the greater. So we're going to practice this really quickly, all right? So first, I want you to move into your mind's eyes, close your eyes, and bring up something that makes you smile from the inside out, something that you appreciate, no matter what you think about it, okay? So I bring up my nieces and nephews when they're little, and I used to spin them around. Now, I had a friend who brought up her cat, but then she had this fear thought of her cat dying, so she was out of appreciation. So make sure it's something that can keep you in a field of appreciation, okay? And just hold that thought. Now, I want you to bring forth something that you're seeking greater insight or wisdom about. Whether it's a difficult situation at work or at home, whether it's just greater clarity in a situation. Just bring that one thing forth and just keep it on the other side, because that's the thing that in a moment we're going to ask what we need to know. So I want you to focus on your heart. You can put your hand on your heart if that makes you comfortable. That just brings you to the awareness that it's right here. It's beating as you, breathing you. It's constantly working on your behalf. And so as we focus on our heart, I invite you to take deep breaths and breathe deeply. Take a deep inhalation and then exhale. And you're breathing deep into that heart space. Take another deep breath. Deep into that heart space. Be in that rhythmic dance of your breath, focusing on your heart. Breathing into that heart space. And now I invite you to bring forth that thing that brought you that energy of appreciation. Let it smile. Let your heart smile from the inside out. Feel that expansiveness. So you're breathing into your heart. You're anchored into that field of appreciation. And when you are ready, in your mind's eye, or within, just ask yourself about that situation that you brought up, what do I need to know? What do I need to know? And continue breathing into your heart. The answer may come right now, and sometimes it's a whisper, sometimes it's just an emptiness, sometimes it'll come later on in the day or the week. But just be in that field. Now just give thanks. Just give thanks for the wisdom revealed. Take a deep breath. Exhale. When you're ready, open your eyes. If you did that every day, the wisdom that is cultivated from your heart, it empowers me to move into my prayer clearly, to move into my spiritual mind treatments in the morning clearly. It allows me to be in that expansive field of love. Because love is what we're here for. Love is who we are. So if something came in regard to the wisdom, I invite you when you go home today to go into your meditation and then allow an affirmation to come through. And let that be your mantra for the day. But utilize your actual heart field energy to be that beneficial presence in the world. Allow yourself to recognize the light and the love and the truth of God that is your very life. See, we take the mystical, that dance with the divine, we move about it in our day, and then we take the practical because we're spirit in this human realm. But we remember that it is always and only God. So repeat after me. God is life. God is love. I am that. God is life. God is love. I am that. I am life. I am love. God is that. I am life. I am love. God is that. Now look at your partner. God is life. Just pick anybody. God is life. God is love. I am that. You are life. You are love. We are that. God is love. God is life. I am that. Now turn within to yourself and say, God is life. God is love. I am that. I am life. I am love. God is that. Let that be your mantra. Breathe it in. Let it out. When you can recognize the oneness of God in the beauty of life, but if you can recognize the oneness of God when we're going through those dark moments, when we're moving through the alleys of shadow and doubt, when we need to be lifted in a vibration that is higher, you remember that every single person here knows your truth. And you be that. Love everywhere that you go. Ken Wilber, the philosopher, said, love is the all-purpose solvent that dissolves all separation. Love is the all-purpose solvent that dissolves all separation. So whether it's that little 5-year-old on her rocking horse just loving God, or my friend Anita in her wheelchair that radiates love, whether it's Rhea and her journey through addiction and darkness into the magnificence of light that she gives hope and possibility to people, lead with love everywhere possible. Allow yourself to remember God is life, God is love. I am that. Because you're nothing less than magnificent. So move about this day and move about this world in the awareness that God is all there is. Because love is that energy that transmutes. Love is that energy that actually activates everything in our life. Love is the self-givingness of life. And so when you love with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, you put that into the universe, your life shapeshifts. And when we enter into the challenges, we have our own heart that we turn to for the wisdom of the infinite one. That is our life. So I invite you to go out and play in the divine, to love with all your heart. That when you see somebody who looks like they're in a space, just smile. To know that indeed that you're that radiating presence, that you are perfect just as you are. And when you love with all your heart, guess what? The universe is reciprocal. It's going to come back to you 10,000-fold. So be that light. Be that love. What you have here in this community, you literally are creating this ripple effect of energy that's not only going to bring Toyota in, because I saw them over there. I'm like, come on down the hall. We got a place for you to play, But it ripples out into the world. And when people are in fear and doubt, you get to be that consciousness of yes to love, yes to life, yes to God. And allow yourself to receive that good in every way possible.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.